Today's guest has spent his entire career at the intersection of tennis and entrepreneurship, founding the channel, inventing live ball, now launching what might be the next big racket sport, TYPTI. Steve Bellamy is someone who doesn't just love tennis, he builds things around it, and we have a lot to talk about today. I can't wait to dig into his story and see what he's cooking up next. But we always start by asking the guest, how are you today, Steve?
I am having a wonderful month. How are you doing?
I'm good. It's summer. Everything's pretty smooth. So tell me about your wonderful month. I'm very curious now why it's so wonderful.
Well, we just had the U.S. Open of TYPTI, and that ended up just really doing well. And our social media, we've had 7 million impressions in the last 30 days. We've had inquiries to uh, add TYPTI to clubs in America and around the world, probably to the extent of 300 in the last 30 days. And we've got
Wow.
people who want to put on their own pro tournaments all over America and the world. And so that was definitely a tipping point for the sport, no doubt.
Yeah, it felt like a little bit of a watershed moment because it's a huge event. It was great marketing. I've been watching you on Instagram and seeing all the growth there. But I mean, you invented this sport, so it must feel pretty crazy for you. And the idea came to you, as far as I understand, like 30 years ago. You were running summer camps, from what I heard. So how did it come about, like this sport that is kind of taking pickleball courts into a new direction, more closer to tennis?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I am a tennis guy. Period. No ifs, ands, or buts. And TYPTI is tennis on a pickleball court. Obviously, there's different rules and all kinds of nuances, but in general, it's load and explode. It is tennis ball strikes. It is very, very different than pickleball. It has nothing to do with pickleball. It's way more like badminton than it is like pickleball. But so I was running a little club called the Palisades Tennis Center 30 years ago. And in the same month, right when I took it over, I came up with 3 ideas: live ball, the tennis channel, and TYPTI. TYPTI was not called that then. We didn't even have a name for it. We just called it mini tennis. But so we were shameless hustlers. We just were beating the door down in our community, and we had our little forecourt. It was an 8 total court, but we had 4 courts that we could use, packed beyond your wildest imagination. So one day we show up for camp, and I have 125 campers on 4 courts. So I build a bunch of peewee net courts out on the grass, and we use them all day long. We just had station rotation, but I forgot to strike them. Then later in the day, when the high level tournament players came, and we had kind of the lock on high level SoCal tournament players, we had 17 kids that went to number 1 in the world over the course of the time there, and 300 kids that played D1 college tennis. But so we had 45 kids show up, and I've still got 4 tennis courts. And so just for the heck of it, I threw some kids out on these mini tennis courts with small rackets and foam balls. And to my surprise, the points were better than what they were on the tennis court. And everybody loved it. They were having a blast. You can do things with the ball that you can't do with a tennis ball. Obviously, a strung racket and a foam ball creates an interlocking mechanism. And so it's a 1-to-1. As you brush over a ball, you don't have any ball slippage. So if I'm going to create 3,500 RPMs with my string bed movement, that's how many RPMs I'm going to get out of that ball. And so they're hitting sharp angle rolls and all this fun stuff. And it's on grass. It's not on concrete. And so we ended up doing that for 3 years. We just kept putting those out there, and it would be a station where kids would come and play, high level kids. And so we probably, in aggregate, 30 years ago, had 3,000 kids playing TYPTI over the course of 3 years before I started the tennis channel. And it was just a thing we did. It didn't have a name, it didn't have the scoring it has today, but it was in a sense the same thing.
Yeah, what an amazing start. But so how has the years passed? Has this idea been in your head all this time, or has there been like a launching point where you're like, oh, now is the time to go hard with TYPTI. This is the time it's going to happen.
Yeah, well, don't be confused that because I have a normal size head, I have a normal size brain. It is much, much smaller. And I don't remember much, but that was one of the few ideas that just stayed with me. Like, man, that was really cool. The magic of what you could do. But basically, it should be called easy tennis. You can just do more with the ball than you can with a tennis ball. And so it's cheating. One of the reasons you watch those YouTube videos and the points look so head scratching is because the flight of the ball, it's the fastest racket sport at ball string impact, and it is the slowest off of the court on the opposite side. So when I hit a ball, it's going make up number 100 miles an hour off my string bed. When my opponent hits it, it's going 16. So there is a precipitous drop. What that means is if you and I are playing singles and I've just got you beat to death way off the court, it's amazing what you can still run down and make a play on. And so there's so many turnarounds in TYPTI where the point seems like it's over, and lo and behold, the defender gets three upstairs, and then they win the point. And so that just happens all the time, and it's the magic of TYPTI, so to speak.
Yeah, you can really tell that from watching YouTube videos and watching the US Open that you held. Like there's so much like fun and excitement in the points, which sometimes when you watch pro tennis, and if you watch it a lot, you've seen a lot of it, is that it's not always there. Like you're waiting, especially sometimes on grass, because it's a lot of serve plus one. So you want like long rallies, some drama, and you don't always get that. Is that been a feeling of yours as well, that this actually brings out something fun to watch as well?
Yeah. So first of all, just to state very categorically for the record, tennis is the best professionally played sport there is. Period. No ifs, ands, or buts. It's better than soccer. It's better than NBA basketball, NFL football. It's better than all the other racket sports. There is no parallel to what Sinner and Alcaraz and all these great players are doing. They are the best at anything. That being said, I wouldn't say that tennis is fun. It's not a fun sport. I coach 17 people that reached number one in the world at some way, shape, or form in that sport. I can't recall any of them that had fun. It's amazing. It isn't fun. TYPTI is fun. It's fun because you push your personal boundaries much farther than you could ever imagine that you would. You make plays you would have no business making. You hit passing shots you could never hit in tennis, and certainly not in pickleball. And for that, again, it's sort of cheating, but who cares? It's really fun. It's also the best teaching aid for tennis ever created, period. No ifs, ands, or buts. And if you're a tennis coach trying to make your players better, put TYPTI rackets and balls on the court, let them do that for a while, put them back on the tennis court, and you will not believe how great they are at tennis. I'm such a ADD. I can't remember what your actual question was. I just segued in a million directions.
No, that's the correct direction. No, I was just discussing whether like the entertainment value sometimes of watching tennis, like getting these rallies that you want to
Yeah.
keep up. But
So
yeah, we're both tennis guys for sure. But it's interesting to see this because like I have not personally been so attracted to pickleball, but when there's a tennis stroke involved, which there is in TYPTI, you can have a proper stroke, then it's a lot more exciting.
TYPTI is, I'll say this with a little bit of pause because it has not been tried as much, but I think it's going to be the most telegenic sport. It's the most fun by far. Nothing's even close. But it's going to be the most telegenic, I believe, just because there's so many hero moments going on in a telecast. And I had a very uh, interesting experience at the U.S. Open of TYPTI. So it was 10 hours on the tennis channel. And in the first hour, I went in the truck, which I've done 1,000 times. I used to run the tennis channel. I was in and out of the truck all day long, so many times. And I go in there, and everybody is like white as a sheet. I'm like, well, what's wrong? Like, we can't put this on TV. Like, what are you talking about? Like, it's way too fast. You can't see the ball. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm living this sport every day. You can totally see the ball. And so they were taking the pickleball camera angle, which is on the side. It's like at the net post. And in pickleball, what happens is every point is pretty much the same. It's very one dimensional. It's sort of like darts, and it's a game of precision. Four people get to the net, and then they hit it as soft as they can possibly hit it. They want to just barely cross the net so that the ball stays down and their opponent can't hit down on the ball. That is basically pickleball, professional pickleball in a nutshell. But so when you have that side camera view, you got four people bent over hitting really soft. The ball's going, I don't know what the miles per hour, but 14, 15 miles per hour. It's barely moving. TYPTI is like people are firing guns at each other from short range. I mean, it's like boom, 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 because it comes off the racket so fast. But then, like, you can make a TYPTI ball strike where I'm going to grab a racket here real quick, where like you can have a ball blasted at you, and you've got the racket facing your opponent, and it hits like this. And in the middle of the ball strike, you move the racket around, and as it compacts, you have the time to do that before it explodes off the racket. It's just really unique. So you make way more plays than you would ever make in a normal, you know, racket sport contest. And then when I was talking about earlier, the sprocket effect, when you make a ball strike, the ball flattens like a pancake and it goes out the back of the string bed. It really does. I mean, when we've done some high speed stuff, and you're looking at balls that are literally pancakes on the string bed. I mean, I'm not doing a good job of it, but it's flat. It is a
Yeah.
pancake, and that happens, at pretty much every ball strike. So, but telegenically, it was just spectacular to watch. When we moved to the tennis shots, we moved behind the player, and now you're seeing it leave the racket, and it just all of a sudden bloomed, and it was magical on TV.
Yeah, that's seems to be the way I perceive it as well after watching the stuff on YouTube, which I suggest people do if you're interested in this. And the good thing that we talked about when we met in India Wells was also like you can actually use a pickleball court. You don't have to build TYPTI courts because it can be played
Yeah,
on the
it,
pickleball court. I
it
think that's a big
is a
advantage, right?
yeah, it is a pickleball court. I am just basically pickleball is a pickleball court was a badminton court, and all they did was lower the net and move the line by 1 foot. But uh, what I did was just I look at that as hardware. My sport is software. I built a new piece of software, and I'm plugging it in to the $100 billion of hardware that we have in America now. Like we have built so many pickleball courts, it's head scratching in America. And I don't think they're going to survive. We've overbuilt by a way large margin. But I mean, there's one on every street corner now in America.
But you say like one of the things you said as well is that there are 25 million former tennis players in the US. They don't want to play pickleball. A lot of people play pickleball, but these like guys or girls don't want to play. But they might play this sport. What do you think keeps them more engaged in TYPTI than pickleball?
Yeah. So a TYPTI ball strike is loading, exploding, and knocking the door off the hinges. It is ripping the bejesus out of the ball, just like you do, when you're holding an arrow drive at the baseline and you're hitting a Mach 5. I don't even know if people are still doing Luxilon, but when you got an arrow drive with Luxilon loaded up and your both feet are 8 inches off the ground at impact, that is every single TYPTI ball strike. There is no dinking and no dropping because the ball bounces much, much higher in TYPTI. A pickleball comes in at 25 degrees, pretend it's a pickleball, and it leaves at 13. A tennis ball comes in at 25, leaves at 25. It's the same. This ball, a TYPTI ball, comes in at 25, it compacts and then leaves the court at 43, meaning it's fighting gravity a lot more. It's going high. And so every ball strike is a chest high ball strike. And so you are just swinging for the trees when you play TYPTI. And then it's a little like boxing with oversized gloves. So if like you and I are in the ring with big gloves, we're putting all the energy into punching, but we're not getting the benefit of all of that energy. Like I make a good pop on your jaw. It doesn't really hurt you because you've got so much glove in between the fist and your jaw. And so that is sort of what TYPTI is. You can really just beat each other to death and not put the ball away as much. And so it becomes a contest of strategy a lot. And aimless, people that are just ripping get very tired very quickly. Also, TYPTI, singles TYPTI is way more physically exhausting than tennis. Not even close. Like when my son will do pickleball, TYPTI, and tennis on his Whoop, it's, tennis is like double pickleball and TYPTI is double tennis. It's
Oh
not
wow.
even, yeah.
Yeah, and your son is a professional pickleball player, right? So he can probably play all sports at a high level.
Um, well, I have four sons, but so Roscoe is a professional pickleball player that does not play TYPTI very much at all. And the other three do. One of the sons plays it every day and is training hard in TYPTI.
Cool. So one thing that came up in some comments on your videos, and also something that I think you've highlighted in your on your YouTube channel, right, is the scoring system.
I hate pickleball scoring. I hate it. Well, I would start if you go down historical memory lane, and nobody knows the exact, but in general, there is a philosophy that tennis was built in the 1500s, some say the 1300s, and the noblemen in France pulled this game, jeu de paume, paume de jeu, out of the monasteries, and they wanted to build a sport. They called it the sport of kings, and they made a scoring system that was too hard to understand for lower socioeconomic people. So that's where the scoring started from. The court 60 by 120 started because lots were 50 by 100, and the noblemen did not want the commoners to be able to have courts in their neighborhood. So they just made it a little bit bigger so it didn't fit. Well, you fast forward 500 years, and 30 years ago, I was starting the tennis channel. I was running these tennis clubs, and every other day I was getting a call from some tennis pro telling me about how they were losing their courts. This small club is going to become a shopping mall. This is going to become that. And quickly I realized 7,200 square feet for two people. That is the biggest use of real estate for an athlete. That's 3,600 square feet per athlete per hour. You go to an NBA basketball game, the court's 40% smaller, and you have 10 people distributed across that square footage. So I actually, 30 years ago, took the idea of TYPTI and presented it to the USTA, the ITA, the ITF, the everybody, ATP, WTA, and just said, look, we are going to get murdered down the road by pickleball or paddle tennis or some sport that is just occupying less real estate. We can't have 25 tennis courts in downtown Los Angeles. It's not going to work. The land is too valuable. And so we can either be preventative and make a change today. We can shrink the court, or we can build a companion sport, or we can do nothing. And I guarantee you, pickleball is going to come along and murder us. And I got laughed out of every room I made that presentation to. I mean, laughed like, okay, thanks, Mr. Know-It-All. Yeah, sure. You got one thing right, the tennis channel. I don't think you got everything right. Well, unfortunately, I got it very right. And, pickleball has absolutely murdered tennis. Um, I'm not saying they've done it right. They were the luckiest people in the whole world because pickleball was an accident to begin with as well. I actually 30 years ago flew to Bainbridge Island, met the Pritchard family, went to their church and played pickleball on a gym floor with their dog aptly named Mr. Pickles. And we played and I got done. I'm like, why are you using a wiffle ball? This is a stupid ball. It doesn't bounce. And to this day, they're still using that ball that doesn't bounce very high. And it derives everything about the game. That's why there is a kitchen. That's why there's all this dinking and all this dropping, which is not very telegenic. That's why it's a precision game. But your question was the scoring. The roots of tennis scoring is stupid. It's dumb scoring. No one cares at 1-all. No one cares at 15-all, 15-30. You care at the end. I've done analysis before where you chart the length of points at 0-1, 1-all, 1-2, 2-all, 2-1, and then you do it in the third set tiebreaker. And you cannot believe how much longer the rallies are when you're at the end, because at the end you really have stakes. There's no stakes at 15 love in the very first game of the match. You're figuring stuff out. There's no stakes, and so I think the scoring is stupid. Pickleball is even dumber. Volleyball used what's called side out scoring, and they decided it was too dumb. It was too impossible for viewers to understand. Viewers hated it. You go 10 times where nobody scores a point. What are we trying to make soccer here in America? I mean, we're NBA people where the score is 138 to 136, and we have this thing where you don't score for 10 rotations. So they got rid of it as fast as they could, and then pickleball just adopts it and stays with it. It's just stupid. So I built a scoring system that was based on games I used to play in workouts. And I noticed that the stakes, like if you would play, I had a game called Three in a Row where you only won when you got 3 points in a row. You got 1 point. And we would do that, like play up to 7 and you only score when you get 3 in a row. And it just made you focus so much. So if you think about it, if I'm playing you and I win 2 points, if I don't get that next point, I now have 0 in a row and you have 1. So the impact to me is I lose 2, you gain 1. I just lost 3 points in aggregate. Like that is a stiff penalty. And so that is what we adopted in TYPTI. So you have to win a game, you have to win 3 points in a row. Sets are up to the first one to win 5 games. There's no tiebreakers. And it is just working like a charm. Everyone loves it.
It's pretty easy to understand for sure because if you just say, hey, you have to win 3 in a row, I think people can vibe with it, and it does get really intense quickly. Is there something to be said for tennis building the drama though, when it's like 2-2, 3-3, or do you feel like it's too slow for modern audiences with all the devices and social media and stuff we have in terms
Yeah,
of tennis
I
scoring?
would say that this tennis scoring was definitely better for the populace in 1970 and 1980 and 1990, and now we live in an era where they want pop songs to be 2 minutes and 2 seconds, and you can't make the 8 minute Queen song that the Bohemian Rhapsody that you could get away with before. And so I think tennis just should modernize their scoring. And I haven't been deep into it and been in the meetings. I'm sure they talk about it all the time. But it certainly does a good job of building drama, and it certainly does at the Grand Slams. They've done it so right, and they've created such giant value propositions for the sport. So they've done something right, that's for sure. I don't know if they did it right by strategy or by luck, but it's right. And I will tell you something else. Just in, I did not think that tennis was going to survive losing Federer, Nadal, Djokovic. I just didn't. I'm like, there is no way in the world a new crop of players can come in and with minimal single digit Grand Slam titles between all of them compete with these people that had 60 Grand Slam titles between them. And it was like the audience didn't care. It was like, bye bye, Roger. Hello, Carlos. We're fine. We don't care. And they just made a change. It was so easy. Out with the old, in with the new, done. And I didn't see that coming. It really speaks to tennis's resiliency, and it was way better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, it's impressive how quick that shifted. Being, a Rafa Roger fan as well, like you thought, okay, tennis is gonna drop in interest, and then you had all the reports of people don't watch it on television anymore, especially from the US, the reports that came from there. And if you go to a Grand Slam, it's a live event, so people really crave live events these days. But it's always seems to be more and more people every year, bigger audiences, more expensive tickets, but still. The only thing when you start worrying for tennis a little bit is like when you go to an ATP 250 or maybe even like a challenger, and there might not be such a good like showing of people, but I might be off there. But overall, it seems to be doing quite fine, despite being worried myself as well.
Yeah, I was an ATP tournament director in 2006. I ran the Tennis Channel Open in Las Vegas, and it was an out of the box home run, and we were sold out all the time, and we sold a ticket to someone from every state in America. But it was because I made an event out of it. We had dancing grandmas, we had Wayne Newton singing the national anthem, we had marching bands, we had everything you could think of. I remember Gail Monfils and Leighton Hewitt playing Nintendo tennis against a 9 and a 10-year-old on a big movie screen in the concourse. And and we had professional table tennis players beating consumers using flip phones instead of their paddles. And we just did fun things and eventized it. And all of these little tournaments should be doing stuff like that. And too often they just, we've got a bunch of people that have been in the same jobs for 30 years doing the same stuff, not bringing any ingenuity or any inventiveness to the equation at all. And the output is what you would expect.
Yeah, I think I noticed that as well with the tournament directors I know or that I know of. Like if you go to certain 250s or even 500s, you can see like, okay, this guy or girl understands everything about like bringing entertainment, creating something for the audience who doesn't maybe care so much about tennis, all of them. Obviously, you bring family members along or kids or whatever, and then might not be into tennis. You have to have other entertainment venues, right? And areas. So some people understand it, some don't. I guess that the guys that don't, maybe they don't stay. They don't get their license or get to keep their license. But it's something that we have to be more careful with, I guess. And also, I must say, mentioning Las Vegas, I do miss a tournament there. I mean, there's a challenger, but I would like to see a ATP 500, 250. Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember one thing that was just amazing. It was terrible for me. So I had Gail Monfils in that tournament, and I'm walking in the Mirage Hotel with him, and he had just lost in paddle tennis. We had the U.S. Open in paddle tennis. We converted one court into a paddle tennis court, and it was like a $50,000 prize money package compared to like the 1.1 million that we had for tennis. And I'm walking with Monfils, who had just lost to my wife 6-0 in paddle tennis. And he goes, Bellamy, how about I play the paddle tennis, and if I win, you buy me this watch. And so there's this $27,000 watch. I'm like, okay, if you just lost to my wife 6-0, there's no way you're going to beat these monsters paddle tennis players. And so he goes out and he won the tournament, of course, wins 5 matches in a row. Every match was 3 sets. He was down every single match. In the third one, he was down a set and almost on death's door. And I am freaking because I'm going to lose $27,000, which I probably had 27,000 in my name at that point in time. And and the opponent, Scott Friedman, who is the reigning number one, famous, he was the Federer of paddle tennis, comes up to me and goes, do you want me to throw him a few games? And I was like, no, no, don't just play. And it was like that, at least that little bit of like, I think I'm going to screw around for a second and play with them. And Monfils wins the next point, and then he break dances and gets in Scott Friedman's head. And he ended up winning. We pulled the jib off of the stadium court and brought it there. Every player in the player lounge came out, was courtside. They were going nuts. And the entire front page of the Paris newspaper was Monfils winning that event and breakdancing. And we did that at a little 250 in Las Vegas at a tournament site that we had agreed to play at 33 days before the first ball was hit. And we had snow for the first time in 55 years in Las Vegas on our Qualies weekend. And we still created a magic moment that wasn't on a tennis court that made international press.
I'm impressed by your like entrepreneurship and bringing that to tennis. I mean, obviously we need guys like you in a sport like tennis, and but you started tennis as a coach, right? And how did you get into like finding that passion for driving the sport forwards, creating these events, and now bringing other sports, tennis channel, and so on?
So I was not planning on being in tennis. I was planning on being a musician. I moved here from Indiana to Los Angeles, was never going to hit a ball again. I was a very hardworking junior player. I did not know much about tennis growing up in Indiana. I just worked very hard and played and did okay. So I moved here. I was all done with tennis. And then I started teaching to keep the wolves away from the door and to finance my music habit. And then my clientele started getting more fun. I taught Arnold Schwarzenegger, Tom Cruise, Sally Field, Goldie Hawn, Jeff Bridges, the Spielberg family, the Ovitzes, the Iovines, Hilary Swank, Elizabeth Shue. I mean, that list goes on and on and on. Princes. And I really enjoyed the fact that I was hitting with someone and then they were changing the world. And I really liked that changing the world thing. I'd be with Arnold playing as he's got a movie opening that weekend and he's turning down calls from the president of the United States and things like that. And I'm like, God, you can have a life where you just get stuff done and move the needle and make change, or you can just kind of not. And I said, I don't want to be in the not category. So I was clearly not talented enough in music to where the world was saying, we need you on stage. It was me fighting every step of the way to get anything out of it. And so I started taking tennis more seriously. And then once I started getting kids off the street and into college, I was like, wow, this sport is amazing. And that's what pissed me off, that we were doing so poorly in television. And I'm like, I need to start a tennis channel, because the fact that all these tournaments just aren't on TV. Back in the day, you could only get slams, really. Maybe Indian Wells would have a couple hours on Fox. That's it. And so that's why I started the tennis channel, solely because I wanted to grow tennis by getting all these small tournaments on TV.
Yeah, what a great thing that has turned into to being, right? So thanks for that. And do you have any regrets on the journey, or you felt like you made the right calls at the right time? You should never have regrets, I guess, but it's a good question, I think.
The funny thing is, I didn't learn a thing. I was an idiot then. I'm an idiot now. I didn't know how to do it. I just learned by trial and error. I somewhere I've got a notebook where I had 100 meetings. The first 100 meetings pitching the tennis channel were all rejections. So I was 0 for 100. Like, what other moron would take meeting 101 after you just got rejected 100 times? Well, hello, this moron would. And that 101 was Charlie Passarell at Indian Wells. And he was like, I think you're onto something. It's pretty cool. Have you talked to my guy, Frank Biondi? And I'm like, I haven't. But if you want to introduce me. And from there, all of a sudden, I started getting a little traction. And before you know it, we a thing that got rejected 100 times, and the tennis industry, the USTA, 17 of those 100 rejections were people at the USTA. So I couldn't get the Tennis Channel, I couldn't get interest from the governing body of tennis to make a tennis channel. I was 0 for 17, and I still did it. And then ironically 5 years later we had an offer for 1.4 billion dollars for an asset that 100 smart people had said no, that'll never work. But I say that only because I haven't learned anything. I still work 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, and every night I go to bed with a laptop on my lap. I go to sleep when my eyes hurt so bad I can't keep them going anymore. I shut my computer and I dream of waking up and opening my computer with fresh eyes and continuing working. So it's super not healthy, and I've not learned a thing, but it's what I do. I push rocks up hills.
I think it's just something ingrained in certain humans, right? Like that you have no stop. Just got to keep going, And I mean that's obviously making a huge difference for the rest of the world when there are people like that who just keeps going, hopefully in the right direction. But I think you have that. If you have that kind of passion and determination, you can do a lot of things, And 100 rejections, then that you require quite a strong confidence to keep going after that. Most people would have given up by 30, I think.
Trust me, there was no confidence. I was too dumb to understand how much rejection I was getting. And then I was just conditioned to continue to go and go and go. There shouldn't be a tennis channel on the air. There's no way that should have worked. I mean, what other idiot would go to meeting 101 after you had 100 in a row that were rejection? You know, one idiot, me, but no one else would have been that dumb.
Doesn't that bring you confidence for other things as well that you've done in life, right? I mean, now you're doing the TYPTI, that's all in for you, of course, and it's picking up steam, and that must have give you the confidence that okay, I can do this, even though if it's tough in the beginning, or I need to kind of generate my own motion or my own traction, I will still be able to do it.
Yeah, I've basically done 5 things in my life. I took a broken down tennis center that made $93,000 the year before I took it over, and I had it making $1.4 million in under a year. And I did that just by grit and determination. Then I started the tennis channel, that worked. Then I started the ski channel, and that worked. And it was a similar thing. Then I ran Kodak in the movie business, and I took this dead asset I was brought in basically to put it to bed gracefully. And I said, look, I have no interest in that, but if you'll allow me to try to make it work, I'll give it a shot. And we went from being a company that you could barely get a production to shoot film to sweeping the Academy Awards for a movie shot on film. And so with TYPTI, I walk into it, it's 100% that TYPTI is going to work. It's not 98, it's not 97, it's 100. It's going to work. And this is moving way faster than the tennis channel or anything else I've done in life. Like, I don't even understand it. It's going so fast. The difference is my heart is in the right place. I'm not trying to steal pickleball courts from pickleball players. I'm not trying to steal tennis players from tennis. I'm trying to grow an amazing racket sport, utilize the assets, and be smart for the greater good of the whole. And and the greater good of the whole is there's 25 million tennis players that don't play tennis. They also don't play pickleball. And the harsh reality is we've lost 70,000 tennis courts, and we've lost a lot of tennis players because there are some tennis players that now play pickleball and some that play padel. And the pickleball industry is not trying to help tennis. Trust me, they hate tennis. The padel industry is not trying to help tennis. I am trying to help tennis. I want tennis to succeed. And if I get 10 million people off the couch and they rejoin TYPTI, I guarantee you 5 million are going to then bounce back to tennis, and I'm going to help tennis. And so I couldn't be happier with everything I'm doing. I wake up with the right frame of mind, and it's just crushing it right now.
That's amazing to hear. I think it's important to feel like that the mission you have is, I mean, a good mission, you know, for you especially, like that you, if you're gonna have the passion that you have, and that you can actually see, you know, this is has several win-win-win scenarios, right? It makes it easier to keep pushing hard. And I've known about TYPTI for a while, but the growth has been really impressive, and you're doing a great job, and without like a marketing team or like a huge organization behind you yet. So it's really impressive to see, and it shows that there's an interest for this kind of sport that lands somewhere in between pickleball and tennis, closer to tennis, I would say, based on the way you hit the ball and the way how the ball performs. Yeah.
Nothing to do with pickleball. It's miles. TYPTI and pickleball are apples and catamarans.
Let's get into the racket a bit. I mean, being a racket nerd myself and working a lot with rackets and players and stuff. So the racket, you invented the racket like after a lot of testing, or how do you come about? Like it's a 22-inch racket, right? It has strings and pretty open patterns. How did you
Yeah,
get
so
there from
this is the
scratch?
racket here. It is a 22-inch, very, very high performance carbon fiber frame. This is a 10 by 11 string pattern, so very, very wide string pattern. And this is a racket that you stand behind the baseline, swing as hard as you can, and you just massacre the ball. And it really works. And then let's see what else we got here. So this is the second SKU, and this has got a thinner beam. This has got a 12 by 13, so a denser string pattern, a little softer. It's more of an all court racket. This one has not been announced or released, so I don't know when your podcast is. You might out me. But this is the next one. This is a super thin beam, a super dense string pattern. We're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is 16 by 15, I believe. And this is your amazing volley racket. This one doesn't even have graphics on it yet. But so basically what I did was I made a baseline racket, an all court racket, and a volley racket. And you can do everything with all three of them, but they do serve a better purpose. And you can see the width. The red one's by far the wider one, and then the black one's a little thinner, and the orange one's super thin. And I've never understood tennis manufacturers in terms of like it's a 4.8, it's a 6.2, it's a 6.1. Like, how in the world does that resonate with any consumer? It is just stupid. And the naming conventions have been stupid. And so I want to make it super, like, I love coming to the net. I'm getting this one. You know, when you spin a racket and you let the handle fall on the ground, you pick up the dirt on the ground. And now you've got dirt on your handle. Well, so what I did was I put the words up and down. And so you can spin it in your hand and you'll see up and down. When you're stringing, if you look here, you'll see there's a donut. And if you look here, you can see there's a hash mark. And so those two hash marks go right down on the stringing machine, and the stringer knows exactly where to tie off because it's donutted. I don't know why every racket company doesn't do that, but I'm doing that because the reality is pro shops are losing that stringer that's strung for 32 years. Now he's quitting, and they get a 15-year-old kid in there that has to go to YouTube videos to learn how to string a racket. And so I wanted to make these so easy to string. It is ridiculous. And so why not use the racket as an instruction manual? And we've done that. Yeah, so we did, if I don't say so myself, we did a lot of really smart technologies in the racket. And we were the #1 selling racket at Tennis Warehouse for the first 30 days. I think we still are. I just haven't been counting it anymore, or haven't been asking them. And best of all, we have had like 0 returns. The return has been infinitesimal. Even like I won't name names, but on the most famous rackets in the world, 1 out of 100 will come back for whatever reason. TYPTI rackets aren't having that at all. It's brand new. You'd think people would try and go, oh, I'm not sure about that sport. No, they're buying it and everyone's loving it. So we did nail the rackets really well, and we nailed the balls incredibly well. So if you look closely, these are channels, and I spent about 5 dinners with a man named Eric Weinstein, who's the smartest man alive, going over icosahedrons, truncated icosahedrons, dimpled truncated icosahedrons. What is the best ball for a racket sport? And we ended up on this. And the reason we did was I can make art with this ball. I can serve you and I can aim those channels at you, and now I have a very aerodynamic sphere. Or I can turn it sideways, and now I've created an enormous amount of drag on that ball. Or I can turn it like this, and I can kick it from right to left, and when it bounces, it's going to bounce into your body. And so you can, and then I can fake you out. I can show you this as I'm about ready to hit the ball. And then as I let go of it, I let it spin this way and I throw a knuckleball at you. And so I wanted to make it as artisan as humanly possible and give players the most amount of things. A tennis ball is 2 pieces of felt that go together like this. There's no thinking about that. A pickleball is just a wiffle ball. It's a ball plastic with holes in it. Nobody's thinking about the aerodynamic characteristics of it. And I spent 2 years prototyping rackets and balls and trying everything under the sun and buying tools to edit foam and to recess foam and we ended up with a pretty perfect marriage.
Yeah, the ball is super important. Like it's the reason it's been a hot potato for the tennis tour, like the quality of the ball's gone down and then everybody complains, and in terms of durability, like how fast do you go through a TYPTI ball? It's gonna be fast or are they lasting okay?
So TYPTI is really weird, and I'll say every racket sport has problems with balls. There's just no, it's tough. And if you think about tennis, a tennis ball cost $1 50 years ago. It was the same as a golf ball. Now a golf ball is 12 times more expensive, and a tennis ball is not that much more expensive. Like you can find Walmart or somewhere where it's still $1 a ball. It's like 3.59 a can, so you're barely over. So balls have been largely impervious to inflation. So with TYPTI, so this is our first ball. If I've got Mildred, Janet, and Gwen playing, who are 3.5s from Tuscaloosa, this ball lasts forever. If I've got Rafa playing Djokovic and they're ripping the cover off this thing, it's amazing how quickly this degrades, because if you think about it, you're taking this string bed, hitting a piece of foam at 110 miles an hour. And so, one is going to be a lot more damaging to the other. And so we definitely, if I've got 5.5 and over people that rip topspin, we burn through balls way fast, and we're actually going to come out with another ball that is more like a range ball, and it's going to be loaded with rubber. And so it plays exactly the same. It doesn't feel as good at impact, but it is way more durable. So we're coming out with that. And I will say you, this, of all the ball strikes of a badminton shuttlecock, of a ping pong paddle, of racket, you name it, the best ball strike in all of racket sports is this ball. When you hit this thing, it is so pleasurable. I cannot even describe it. It is a blast.
Foam and strings, like a softer ball and strings makes all the sense in the world. And you mentioned before, like, why are pickleballs sticking with this wiffle ball, you call it? Like we use it in Europe for like floorball when you're playing like land hockey inside and stuff. And
Yeah.
it's a horrible sounding ball. Like it creates like a high pitched sound. It doesn't bounce. There's not really any good things to say about it, I would say. So I've always struggled with that. Like, why are they sticking to that ball of all the things?
It's 92 decibels at 1.2 kilohertz. That's the most audible frequency to the human ear. That's what a dump truck uses in reverse, because they want you to be able to hear it so you don't get run over by it. And it's beyond me. But pickleball, became almost worse than tennis in terms of the alphabet soup in no time. And they should have looked at tennis and go, okay, ATP, WTA, USTA, ITF, ITA, TIA. Let's don't make that mistake. Let's make one governing body. Let's get everyone singing off the same sheet music and go. And instead, PPA, MLP, APP, DUPA, it's as many organizations. I'll talk to people. I'll get calls from people in pickleball agencies or entities, and I've never heard of them, and they'll tell me that, like, oh, I'm the governing body of pickleball. Like, you are? Okay. I mean, and so they already have just created war, and whereas tennis is dysfunctional and gets nothing done. These people in pickleball are suing each other. I mean, there are multiple lawsuits back and forth right now against entities that govern the bodies. And yeah, I don't know why, but we're definitely not going to have that problem. TYPTI is wholly owned by TYPTI, and any racket that's get made will get licensed through TYPTI or made by TYPTI. And same with the ball. If you look at the lunacy in the paddle world in pickleball, I was told by somebody who is in the racket accrediting world that there is over 4,000 brands, not SKUs, brands that have attempted to be certified. 4,000. If you look at tennis, it's 8, maybe 9. That's all you got. It's basically this in America, it's the same size player base. One has 4,000 people making rackets and one has 8. Okay, something is going to break down there. So we're not going to have any of those problems. We are going to be very managed, call it a controlled burn. We made Olo rackets to begin with, which is our house brand. And the reason that we did that was because if I was going to make any mistakes on rackets, I was going to make sure that it was on my dime, not on someone else's. Fortunately, we nailed it, and the rackets have been fantastic. But Prince will be coming out with their TYPTI racket very shortly, and then another very big brand will be coming out with rackets probably by the end of the year or the beginning of next. And we're going to go very slowly. I've told all the brands we're going to do 8 total rackets, no more.
All right, that's good. I mean, like being in the jungle of tennis rackets and gear in general, like shoes and strings and whatnot, like what you pointed out with the, tie-offs or these like logical things that tennis seems to miss over and over again, like it's just like frustrating with the naming of the rackets. Who is it for? Descriptions make no sense and stuff sometimes. So I think it's good to burn slow, like a slow rate of building it. And you're not gonna have, like I discussed this with pickleball people as well, like I was shocked because I'm not a pickleball player. I played it, but that there's so many different racket brands. And then I got like an introduction of that through one of the most popular shops. I was like, okay, wow, this is going crazy because there's like the rule book is changing. Everybody's trying to get some new technology and maybe you're selling a lot of rackets, but it's just very confusing, and I can see the lawsuits happening all the time.
Yeah, well, there are two $200 million concurrent lawsuits right now. And then one brand, Yola, has sued a whole bunch of brands because Yola had a patent pending technology, and the people in pickleball were so oblivious that they made that technology because it was working. And then as soon as Yola got the patent, they just sued everyone that didn't respect the patent pending. It's like they didn't even know. And so, I mean, you would never have that in tennis. Pickleball is sort of like the Wild West compared to tennis.
Yeah.
It's Austin real estate. Everyone's moving to Austin. Okay, let's build so many homes. We'll build plenty. And then they realize we built 2 times as many homes. Okay, now let's discount them out the door as fast as we can. That is sort of pickleball. Pickleball is absolutely wonderful because it's caused $100 billion of facility to get built, and it's gotten 30 or 40 million people off the couch playing a sport. So tennis hasn't done that. Pickleball has kicked the crap out of tennis in terms of creating community and building a business.
Yeah, I always give credit to that. I mean, like it's Wild West. There are this noisy sport and stuff like this, but overall, like we want people to move. That's your whole purpose, I guess, with TYPTI as well. If you can get people to get out of the couch or just exercise, is great. And pickleball, they've done that, and now you can use the same courts, which is a great benefit. There's no noise, so there's a lot of things going for you. In Europe, it's more of a paddle or padel, as you say in the States. Like it's a padel world here, and they're building courts everywhere. In Sweden, they overbuilt. You said in the US they overbuilt pickleball courts, so that seems to be that sometimes the hype like outruns what's the actual real facts, right?
Yeah, I think pickleball in certain markets absurdly overbuilt. Like there's 29 pickleball clubs in Dallas, Texas within a 10-mile square radius. That
Yeah.
is definitively not sustainable. But it'll true out and it'll be pickleball is doing amazing in terms of participation and building community. And in terms of governance, it's trickier. And in terms of strategy, there just hasn't been. No one is minding the store, and clubs are. I build a pickleball court on Monday on Elm Street. You build one on Tuesday on Birch Street. Someone else builds someone on Waverly Way, and there's just no common sense.
I mean, you're a smart guy. You don't say so yourself, but you're a smart guy. What can we do to improve tennis, would you say, for the listeners here? Like, well, do you have any like things that if you ruled tennis, you would be like, I would change these three things straight away?
Yeah, that would be an entire podcast. Yeah, I think junior tennis is abominable. Just we could not do a worse job, and we had such a good thing going. College tennis in America had such a good thing going, and that has train wrecked. And then in terms of pro tennis, I think at the apex there were 45 men's pro tournaments in America, like 250 ATP level tournaments. I've got a spreadsheet somewhere. There's 45. Today, I think we're under 10. And if you think about that, compare that to like NBA basketball in America. Every single game is played not just in America, it's played, half of them are played in the city that is named after the team. So you can create a local rooting advantage and paradigm for that team. How do you do that? There was one year at the Memphis tournament, the Memphis ATP, where I could my facts a little bit wrong, but not only was there not one player from Memphis, there was not one player from America. And I think maybe they wild carded one in or something, but there was no players from the country that the tournament is at. Tennis created an international infrastructure, and I just think it's a big mess. So the number one thing that I would do, I would have 4 Grand Slams, and then I would have every other thing would be in your own country. I would have Americans playing in America for a long periods of time, and then they go to the Grand Slams. Maybe with an Italian Open or something, you take a little bit of a thing. Maybe with an Indian Wells, you take a little bit of a leeway. But in general, it's hard to, if you have a tournament in Memphis, Tennessee, and there's not anyone from, let alone Memphis, America in the tournament, how do you market that? Like, does anyone in Memphis care about a guy from France playing a guy from Spain? Not unless they're super famous. And we clearly have not been able to make anyone famous in tennis outside of a handful of people. But again, this would be a very long time if you said fix tennis. And I will tell you, I built TYPTI to help tennis. The tennis industry, the smartest thing they should do is adopt the living bejesus out of TYPTI, because it is the best gift to tennis. I'm going to do more to help tennis with TYPTI than I did by starting the tennis channel or by starting live ball.
I mean, for the European listeners, live ball, can you explain briefly what that is? Because I think there's a bunch of listeners that probably have not played live ball. I know what it is, but I go to the States quite a lot.
Yeah, it is played around the world. Like I was in Spain once and went to a red clay club, and there was live ball on 4 courts 10 years
Cool.
ago. So live ball is a game that I invented 30 plus years ago that is sort of like King of the Hill. You have challengers on one side. It's all doubles, not all doubles, but usually done in doubles. And a feeder is feeding, but is evening the playing field. Like, so if I've got 2 5 5 level players that come up and they're playing against 2 4 5 players, I can make the feeds harder for the 5 5s to level out the playing field. And that's really the reason it started that way. And it took hold, and that was sort of my gift to the tennis industry. And now it's played in tens of thousands of clubs around America. There are clubs that have 80 hours of live ball workouts a week, and they don't have a single other, there's not a clinic, nothing else. It's only live ball.
The name is good because it's actually the action of live ball is pretty intense. Like that's I guess the idea, you get thrown into the action straight away. Tennis can sometimes be kind of slow, and you get a lot of involvement and people. It's a bit more social for sure than tennis can be quite antisocial in a way.
Yeah, tennis is just got such an F on this report card in terms of building community, just a straight out F. And from top to bottom, like the cheating in junior tennis is such a fracture of building community. Like I've watched so many inventories of kids hate each other over cheating, when if you just eradicated cheating and you got rid of the cheaters, all that goes away and you build a community and you have kids that started playing together in the tens that are best friends when they're 60. And instead, cheating ruins that. But it's a sport where if you come back from a vacation on Sunday, we go play on Monday. I can't ask you about your vacation when I'm 104 feet away from you hitting a ball. I'm not going to get any intel. I can't hear you. And so tennis has that phenomenon, and we should be going, okay, that's our reality, that's our constraints. What do we do to make these two guys have some form of intimacy in this? How do we restructure what we're doing so they're buddies and they get intel and they do what pickleball does naturally? If you and I are playing pickleball and we're warming up, oh my God, how was Rome? You're kidding. Oh, no way. I got to go there. Okay, great. How's your daughter? Fantastic. And you don't have that in tennis. You're too far apart.
I mean, you're seeing it with the evolution of like golf on YouTube because like you can easily package golf into a social thing, and you have two good amateurs, but amateurs who are playing a round of golf, and they can have a cameraman or two, and then they just yap around the golf course, and people watch that because there's like some human engagement in it. But in like you say, in tennis, you're far away. It's pretty fast paced. You can't be screaming. You can only really talk when you do a warm up. A mini tennis warm up. That's really the only time you talk, and then you have to go and compete. And it's also kind of very competitive generally for a lot of people. The tennis players tend to be extremely competitive in my experience.
It's competitive. It's isolated. The mano a mano sports. If you and I are both on a team, a football team or a basketball team, and I take an L, I don't hate you because I took an L. Maybe I want to win and maybe I'm competitive, but it's blurred. If we play tennis and someone wins, it's mano a mano. I lost 100% of that match and you won 100% of that match. But again, it's our reality. So we should be building tournaments around how do we structure socialization into those tournaments? How do we build community into those? What mechanisms do we employ that happen at every single tournament? Is there a draw party where everyone comes together and it's mandatory at every USTA or ITF or whatever? And instead we do the stupidest crap like in SoCal. If there's at least it used to be, if there's an ITF event, you have to check in person. Like if you've got a wait list, why would you make someone drive 75 miles to say I'm checked in, drive home, and then come back and play the tournament next day? But yet we did that for decades, and we're probably still doing it. Moronic. Make someone drive 150 miles a day before they play a tournament. just the archaic legacy based rules of tennis.
Yeah, I agree. I think also what you said before, I wanted to comment on that, but it's of the restructuring of the tour. I've partly toyed with the idea of like, okay, either it should be like teams, it's been tried a few times, of course, that it would be more engaging to see like you're like a Champions League of like what they do in soccer, right? And have teams competing. That would be more engagement with less travel. But like you said, it's better if people can compete in the country. Like Italians stay in Italy or close, in the US you stay in US, Australia, and so on. And then you have maybe 4 to 8 or 10 tournaments a year where there's more like an international like vibe instead of everybody just flying everywhere all the time and having to pay for hotels and flights and they miss some flight and they can't play it. It's a very messy sport.
When my wife played pro tennis back in the day, she did housing. First of all, she played in America most of the time. And then she did housing and she would meet people in cities that became lifelong friends. It was a wonderful social predicament that the players were in. And now everybody gets a hotel room, and so you go isolate in your room, you never see anybody, and it's just everything tennis has done is like, how can we crap on community? And they've succeeded enormously.
Of course, wanted to ask you as a guy who loves to play guitar and sing. You had a dream of becoming a pro musician. It didn't quite work out, but you've done other great things. But you're still doing a lot of music. You have a music museum at your house, as far as I understand, and you're still playing, you're still gigging. So tell me more about that.
I still record a lot. We recorded an album with Kenny Aronoff and Joe Bonamassa and Jurgen Carlston, very way above my pay grade musicians. But I have a beautiful museum and studio here. I'm not in it right now, but I do have a couple of trinkets here. So I collect things like this right here. This is Frank Sinatra's microphone that he's used on lots. And this microphone was also at Cherokee and has been used to record Thriller and
Wow,
Appetite for Destruction, and all four Beatles recorded on this microphone. So it's been done some amazing things. And then this, I'll get this here. This is sort of my pride and joy. So this right here is John Lennon's 1963 Fender Duosonic. And this was right around the time when he was building up the song Imagine. And so this is one of my prized possessions I've had for a long time. But I have a lot of instruments, hundreds of instruments, like Eddie Van Halen's guitar and amps from the Rolling Stones and the Who and Oasis, and all kinds of cool players.
that's amazing. So you get to play a bit of every day then. You go and hide in your studio.
I quite often will have a guitar in my hand when I'm just doing business and rolling calls. And I'll just be like I have a guitar in my hand now, and I'll just be doing scales with my left hand that you can't hear, and I'm just sort of doing it while I'm focused on talking. And I've done that for 30 years. Okay.
Yeah, you develop a fast hand then.
Yeah, I did it when I was running the tennis channel. I would have a guitar in my hand all day long while I'm talking on the phone.
It's kind of like they used to have something some years back for kids called fidget spinner. Like it's kind of
Yeah.
nice when you're doing something to fiddle with something. And a guitar is the only issue is sometimes that it can make a sound, but if you're just noodling on the some scales on an electric, it's fine.
Right now, I'm playing scales on John Lennon's guitar, and you're not hearing me. You're oblivious, and I'm just doing this.
That's fun, man. So how do you have time for that with all the stuff going on? It's all the 18 hours of working at every day probably.
Well, since I started TYPTI, I haven't been doing anything but TYPTI. I am just 100% all in, and
Hmm.
there'll be some rhyme or reason to it soon. We're going to start hiring a lot of people, and we got a really, really big announcement that's going to come here shortly about very, very cool facility situation. And yeah, there'll be a lot of changes here. But if I would tell you, if you haven't tried TYPTI yet, try it. It is the most fun. It is such a great time. And if you've heard the rules are weird and goofy, try it. And once you do the rules, you will not believe how fun those rules are.
Yeah, I think they seem great. Like I have to try it. We didn't have time in LA last time, so next time I'm coming, or if maybe I get some tipsy rackets from the TW people, and I can go to a pickleball court here with a friend of mine. That would be great because it does look a lot of fun, like a lot of fun, and I think I could convince some tennis guys to come and hit with me who I would not be able to convince to go and play pickleball. To be honest, they would not go for that. But with this, I think I can do it.
There's a very, very weird phenomenon when you play TYPTI at a pickleball facility because, in general, pickleball players are not tennis players. And so they're people that just started this game 2 years ago, or 18 months ago, or a year ago. And then tennis players are people that played 8 years of junior tennis and played college tennis, and they have beautiful manicured strokes. Pickleball players do not have that. And so, one problem we're running into is at pickleball clubs, pickleball players will go complain to the managers that they look stupid because they don't look as good as the tennis players playing TYPTI. Pickleball players never play TYPTI. It's not like they go, hey, which one are we playing today? Pickleball players play pickleball. They're more, the funny thing is, tennis players don't like pickleball, but in general, pickleball players want tennis to die. They hate, or they love winning. They love the fact that they hacked the system, found a sport they didn't have to spend 8 years training at. And I'm in the meetings. I can tell you it's 100% true. They just, every time a tennis court gets converted to a pickleball court, they're cheering. They couldn't be happier. But they really do not like when they're out there playing and then somebody like you with beautiful manicured strokes goes out there and hits 45 balls in a row, and it makes what they're doing feel sophomoric oftentimes. And we've had to deal with a lot of complaints on that.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that because you're sharing like courts and then I mean even okay, there's plenty of public courts so you can everybody anyone can show up and do whatever they want. But I guess there might be some complaints or consternation among the pickleball fans. You know that what are you guys doing over here? Or maybe also there's some are positive. I guess like and like oh I want to try that too.
Yeah. Oh, there's certainly tons of positivity. It's sort of like internet comments. If you look at any of those videos, there'll be 500 comments, and of the 500, 485 of them are wonderful, and 15 will be just play tennis, or this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Um, so this is what it is. But
it is what it is for sure.
the two worlds should work together. And tennis really screwed up. Tennis could have owned pickleball. And they had pickleball came to tennis 2 times and begged the USTA to take them over. And the USTA said no the first time. And the second time they said only if you get rid of the kitchen. And clearly tennis did not understand that you have to have a kitchen to make that sport work.
I have to ask you about this as well. How did the name? What does the name mean, and how did you come up with it? Tipti.
So I ran the company Kodak for 9 years. And in 1877, the founder of Kodak, George Eastman, had an adage that the best brand names were 5-letter meaningless words. So he named his company Kodak. And his marketing assistant was a guy named J. Walter Thompson, who started the agency, the J. Walter Thompson Agency, that the show Mad Men is based on. And if you go in any grocery store, which is where they got their start, you will notice Evian, Gleam, Prel, Crest, all of these 5-letter Pepsi names, and that don't mean anything. And so I love that idea. And so I came up with the name TYPTI. I got the domain name. I love the that it's a T, so it kind of is in the family of tennis. I like that the Y has an I sound and the I has an I sound or an E sound. So there was some irreverence there. And so, yeah, I bought TYPTI, the domain name, and that became the sport.
That's awesome. No, I was thinking about that because I've been working in advertising myself for many years before doing this stuff. You start thinking about these names, because there's so many bad names, but the best names are usually just making a name for themselves in the end. They are like making the name mean something. And obviously, if it has a ring on your tongue or it's easy to remember, it's a bit better normally. So I think
I
it seems to work.
I did not want to have a derivative name. I did not want to have the word tennis, something tennis. That's just stupid. I don't know why anyone would do that. I didn't want to have something ball. Um, I didn't want to be descriptive. I wanted it to be squash,
Yep.
polo, something that is its own unique identity, not derivative of something else. I did like a name Bello, O Bello, and there were 44,000 trademarks for Bello around the world. I could get it. I could get the name for a racket sport, but for sure, we had 1 billion impressions in the first 30 days. With 1 billion impressions and 44,000 other people that own that name as well, I'd have a stack of lawsuits a mile high. And
Yeah.
when I did the trademark for TYPTI, there was zero trademarks for TYPTI. We were the only one. Now we have lots of hundreds of trademarks and IP around it, but um, there was nobody else. So we've had literally zero letters from people saying, "Hey, you can't do this or you can't do that."
Yeah, it's a huge win because I know it's like corporate law can be pretty harsh if you land in the wrong field, and you have to change name at some point. I guess my final question, which is pretty important question, but so you have some big announcements that we can't talk about here. That's what's next. Do you have anything else that's coming up for TIP? Do you have more tournaments coming, I guess?
Yeah, so we have a whole but we are in tons of the tournament discussions. So we're going to have a tournament coming up in San Diego during the at the Barnes Tennis Center, which is Barnes Racket Center now, and it's during the ITA Collegiate Tournament. So we'll have a bunch of college players playing it. We've got a tournament in Chicago. I think the next week. All this is on TYPTI.com, the website. These are both $25,000 prize money tournaments, and I've got 6 more 25Ks that we're in the process of putting together that we'll be announcing soon. And I think over the next couple of years, we will probably get up in the multi millions of dollars of prize money per year for TYPTI tournaments.
Wow. Like even just listening to the prize money you're mentioning, and I saw that with the US Open, right? It's if you compare to the problem tennis has on lower levels as an iconic sport for it's been around for so many years to actually make tennis players make ends meet, it's kind of impossible unless you're top 200, 300. So it's impressive that you can bring this kind of prize money and obviously it helps sell the sport as well.
Well, I tell you, ironic I'm saying this, but hats off to tennis that you can make a living now at 200 or 300 because a decade ago, I mean, you could be 80 and losing money in the world. Now it seems like there's been more prize money. I have a soft spot in my heart for that kid who's trained at tennis for 12 years. They want to play pro tennis and they just you're spending $5,000 on a week trip to go make $871, and you do that for 22 times a year, and it's a painful year. And so I want to build something that's smarter for that player. So you could play pro TYPTI and play pro tennis at the same time, and use TYPTI to help fund your tennis. I couldn't be happier. And we're going to build stars, and we're putting real prize money out there. We're having owners of facilities and entrepreneurs who are looking at these as I want to build my Indian Wells in my city, and I'm willing to put some real prize money up there. I'll deficit finance for a few years and lose some money. I don't care. I want to build an event that in 10 years is something that's amazing. And so we're offering those types of opportunities to people.
Yeah, that's great. And that also shows your dedication to your first love, which is tennis. And I think that it's the beautiful part of sport is when other sports help each other, but when people help each other. And that's a kind of a great way to end this conversation. I really enjoyed it, Steve. You're a super entrepreneur and a great person for tennis, and now you're building TYPTI. So I wish you best of luck, and hope to try it very, very soon because it looks like so much fun.
I can assure you and anyone else, it is the most fun. If you can play tennis, you will love TYPTI, and it won't hurt your tennis. It will only help your tennis, and it doesn't mean you have to stop playing tennis. It's such a great parallel and partner of tennis.
Great. Thanks for your time, and have a really nice day now in LA. And I hope to see you on a tennis or TYPTI court in the near future.
All righty. Thanks so much. Take care.